All right, we are live and hello, Abusheni, good evening, Huyenant, and all the other South African greetings that we have. So, good people, we are live, and yes, it is Thursday, the 18th of July, which is also worldly renowned as Mandela Day. And today, as we celebrate Mandela Day, we also remind you of the knowledge that we're here to impart. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, what would be F-Stop Live be without a little bit of understanding just how exactly things work in the creative world? And when we talk about the creative world, we talk about all things creative from a photography perspective to a videography perspective, and plain old just sitting down and just planning that show so that we know that at the end of the day we have you covered. And yes, this evening we bring you someone who's been in the industry for a bit, and we're reversing the roles of it. So when we talk about reversing the roles, we're talking about something that is absolutely fantastic, and that is moving from being a model to being behind the camera and actually being the one who says, I'm going to direct, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And yes, this evening we are going to be talking to Molly Blue. But prior to that, there was a little something that I was able to show last week. And, a lot of people don't really like gifts, but if ever there's anything, this is me liking the MLCD 15. And just looking at just this, it comes with 3 accessory heads, which, as much as I'm not a master at unboxing, but hey, let me just still do a little something this evening. And yes, we have a couple of heads that this MLCD actually comes in, and we have the MLCD 15 itself. So mine at the moment is attached to my 8200. Yes, I've got the 8200 right over there, and there is the MLCD 15, which is nice and collapsible, and you can have it as a ball like that. Just compress it a bit depending on how you want to shape the light. So this is what we have. So one of the accessory heads is a flash head, which is very easy to actually have on. So let me just take out this one, and there we go. So that is one of the heads over there. Let me place this nicely over here because we don't want to break it. So we have the MLCD 15, and then we have the round head for the round head lovers. So your V1 and all the round head sort of flashes, you have that. And then you have nice little round head. But now, if we check the back, see, oh, there we go. I was just showing you the back of it. So basically, the back of that one is a Godox mount, whereas the round head mount. And as we said rightfully there, we have the flash mount. So get yourself one of these. It's a really beautiful little thing, really nice to have, and it's easily collapsible. Look there, there we go. And the most important thing, that even if it drops, it doesn't break. So that's the one thing that you must understand about Godox SA. And yeah, shop Godox SA. These are wonderful products that we have at our display. So I like the one thing that that we have there on the screen. So there's one thing that I do have to change on the screen. But yeah, if one thing is for sure, is that when you do shop at Godox SA, you just use the coupon code Godox Pakamani. And when that happens, you get yourself a nice sweet deal. But hey, enough about me. Let's get on to the guest of the evening, none other than Molly Blue. So let me bring on Molly onto the screen. I've talked too much, So this is our MVP for the night, Molly. All right. Hello, Molly.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing exceptionally well. I'm much better than the last couple of weeks because the last 2 weeks have been extremely treacherous, where I've had to find alternative energy to just have the show. So thankfully,
Yeah.
with Godox and GPB, they do have the portable power station, which you can actually get from them, and it actually kept things going. More than
Yeah.
that, they also have the Lightmon. So it's one of the Lightmons that's on top of my camera that is actually I'm using to actually light myself up. So You can actually
Yeah,
see how bright and wonderful these little things really are. So I'm really
100%.
happy with that. And next on the list will be the Move Link lapel mic. So you just clip it on and you get ready to go. So
Yeah.
I'm actually quite amped. I'm happy because I'm sorted. I've got connection and everything is fantastic.
That's great
How
news.
chilly is Cape
Yeah.
Town?
Say again.
How chilly is Cape Town?
It's it's been colder than it was today. I got a little bit of sunshine, which I took advantage of. I just went and stood in my garden and kind of like baked like a bird or something like that. And then when the sun drops, it just got cold immediately again. And I've literally got my hot water bottle on my lap over here.
Okay.
You gotta do. Yeah, but I'm good. I'm doing really good otherwise.
Okay, you've braved the storms. Did you take any pictures of the storm? Because I know a lot of people's like, you know what?
I
These are
did, I did.
memories.
I did take some like photos of the ocean, which came out really, really nice. But other than that, I've been home working for most of it, and yeah, pretty much just working and also watching the storm from inside, battering against my window and being like, "Cool, that makes me not want to leave." So a lot of the roads are also flooded the side, so it's not necessarily to just safe to go, for a little drive. I don't have a 4x4 or like a bucky or anything like that. So yeah.
Strange, I think off-roading is a nice little sport that people like to have and explore because I mean, like at the end of the day, I think I myself, that's the one thing that I once looked into and I said, you know what, if I had a little something similar to like a chimney, I don't think
Mm.
people would find me on weekends because I'd be somewhere.
No, same. Germany is literally the goal for me. That is literally
Yeah.
the goal for me. So we're on the same page.
It's like a photographer's best friend. Like if you're
Mm.
creative and you own that little beast, it's like literally takes you a whole lot of other places where you just
Yeah.
enjoy. But Molly, I am gonna ambush you because
Okay.
there's
I'm
a
ready.
little section on the show that we do, and it's called a little quiz. We want to see how well you know your Godox products.
Oh no, you can't
So,
do this to me. Remember, I used to be in front of the camera. I've only recently stepped behind the camera. So
okay.
spare me some mercy, please.
Okay, so what I'll do is that I'll just go for two questions. I did 5 questions with Vio. Vio got 80% last week, so I was actually happy with that. I was like, oh, okay, good enough because you're a Godox creative. So you just happen to use Godox products, but let's just see how you fare. 2 questions.
Okay.
Fair enough? All
Fair
right,
enough. Let's go for it.
let's see. Ambush time. Okay. Right. So, have you ever heard of the Godox TT685?
No, I can't say that I have, or I might have, but I might have forgotten.
All right. Okay. Let's see how we can make this quiz a little easier. Which flashlight do you happen to own?
I don't have a flashlight. I have a constant light.
Okay. Would that be the MS200 by any chance?
It's the SL100 by for it's the video light.
Ah, the SL100. Okay. So
Yes.
let me see. Out of my questions, I love doing this. I love just making my.
You just love embarrassing people.
Why? No. We create a little something. So that's something that's important. That we need to create a bit of a mini quiz. Just see how well you know your lights. Huh? You know. So let's see. Let's ask the internet questions about the Godox SL100. So the beauty of AI is that it just generates things just immaculately. Yeah, so as I said, just 2 questions that, just get to know, okay, what is what. So yeah. All right, so I can stop this and then get answers. That's the beauty of AI. There was a show that Carl did recently where he said, on getting to grips, let's ask ChatGPT what he should do on F-Stop Live. And yeah, lo and behold, it gave him a couple of ideas, and it was a really immaculate show. So, question number 1 is, what is the power output of the Godox SL100? All right. Is it A, 50 watts, B, 100 watts, C, 150 watts, or D, 200 watts? To repeat the question, Molly Blue, what is the power output of the Godox SL100 LED light? Is it 50 watts, which is A, B, 100 watts, C, 150 watts, or is it D, 200 watts?
I'm gonna go with C, and hopefully I'm not embarrassing myself.
All right, Molly Blue. The answer to the question is A, 100 watts. Okay, you still have one more.
Let's see.
One more.
Maybe I can get 50%.
Right. What type of light source does the SL100 use?
So in terms of like, okay, so no, sorry, read the options. Sorry, continue.
Right. So option A is it a fluorescent light? Option B, is it LED? Or C, a halogen light? So option A is fluorescent light, option B, LED, or option C, halogen light?
Option B, one? LED.
Nice one. They should give me like a little option where I can actually clap for people. It's like, yay, clap. Yay.
Like a little sound. They have actually like a soundboard.
Yeah, like those like.
Yeah, like on Discord. Like on Discord. They have that on Discord. It's really cool.
All right. So one thing that we have, you have 50%. So well done. So 50% is and 0%. So yeah, you seem to have the hang of your light. So we now to the next section. The next one is getting to know Molly. So Molly, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself to the Godox community.
Okay. So my name is Molly Blue. A lot of people probably wonder if that's my real name or not. It is a bit of an alias, but we won't get into that whole situation. I am mainly a self-taught photographer. I did not study anything or do any courses. I started taking self-portraits at a very young age when I was 14 years old. And then I kind of just started branching out into the modeling aspect. And then I ended up behind the camera. And now I'm kind of doing a little bit of both. So yeah, looking to more so do photography full time, and modeling I think I'll keep as like a hobby on the side. But yeah, very excited for my creative journey and all the connections that I've made, and obviously very blessed to have this opportunity to be here and introduce myself to the Godox family. And yeah, thank you very much for everything. And I'm really looking forward to also growing with you guys and using more of your products and showcasing it to everyone else.
Right, so we have a very nice little hi there from Damien. Damien is saying hi, Pakamani, and hi, Molly. So Damien is watching with us. And yeah, and Carl as well saying hi, buddy. So it's really good to have a nice little welcome party and some people saying hi. So Yeah, it's a family thing. It's a family show, and we like to get to know our creatives. We like to give them space where, I noticed something in your background. You are in a gaming chair. Tell us about that. You seem to be, you're a model. You are
Okay, I don't
you're
play
a
myself to be
gamer.
a gamer. No, I
Okay,
have a
okay,
gaming chair. You are correct, but I'm not. Okay, so I'll actually tell you the story behind this chair. So
okay.
last year sometime, I started working remotely from home in Cape Town. So I moved to the city and I had this standing desk, which is adjustable to be seated or standing, which is great, but I didn't have a chair. So I was always sitting on my bed, which is
Hmm.
obviously horrible for your back. And then Christmas time came last year, and my dad and I went shopping for everyone else in the family. And he took me, I can't even remember where he took me exactly, but we went looking for chairs for my brother because my brother's chair was like basically falling apart. So he was like, cool, no, we're going to go get a chair for your brother. And he basically made me sit on like 20 different chairs to find the most comfortable one. And he was like, no, but which one would your brother like really like? Because you know him better than I do. So I was like, cool, it's this one. And then we left and everything was fine. And then Christmas Day came and my dad just puts this massive box down in front of me. And apparently I actually went and picked out my own Christmas gift. I just didn't know it. So that's why I have a gaming chair, because I always know gaming chairs are the most comfortable. And my brother actually does game a lot. So that's also why I went for this option. But now I have it and I've got no complaints. It is literally the most comfortable chair I have ever sat in my entire life.
Ah, definitely. It's a lovely little thing, to have. Instead, you can just rock on it if you want to. You're just sitting so comfortably at times that you even forget that you're actually sitting on the chair itself. That's why I
Yeah,
love it so much. So I was
yeah.
like, yay, Molly has this. Like, yay,
Yeah,
good.
it's got like the back support, it's got the head support, it's got everything. It's great. The arms are
Yeah.
adjustable.
I mean, like, I think you'd
Luxury.
even forget at times that you're even editing because, I mean, you're just sitting there and,
You're
so
actually comfortable.
yeah, it's something like that. So I love it very much. I'm one of those people where I am very the biggest problem I have with gaming chairs is the fact that it's so comfortable that I can actually, be in that space,
Yeah.
and then you get people calling you instead of actually writing the comments on Facebook. Okay, let me just say this, guys. If you have something to ask Molly, please just type it on your Facebook and then I'll read it from there instead of calling me. Because if you call me, I can't exactly answer the call because I mean, so it's a crazy people actually do that, and they literally couple of comments, and one of them comments is coming from Craig. Craig is hello. So yeah, it's something like that. So he's like, hey, and Craig is there, and there's also Damien saying Craig Anderson and Molly are a goat combo when shooting. The magic
That
they
is very
create in
true.
front of the camera is fantastic. I agree.
No,
I'm not even going to be
I miss
biased.
I
I
miss
agree.
working with Craig. It's the
You
one
know,
thing that I miss about Port Elizabeth.
you know, the one thing I love about Craig, and no one will correct me on this one. Craig is such a legend that, like, I had a 15-minute meeting with Craig. Craig unpacked photography and business and everything in 15 minutes. And I left my notebook. I can't even tell you how my notebook looked because that information was just, it blew me away. So
Yeah.
shout out to Craig Anderson. But tonight is more about Molly. So let's find out about Molly. So, Molly, countryside or city? Which one?
So I love the countryside. There's just no work in the countryside, but I would like to reach a point where I can make the countryside my point of living, and then I travel for work and projects like that. I've always come from very small towns most of my life. Cape Town is the first, like, okay, I mean, when I was really small, we lived in Windhoek for like a while, but I don't really
Okay.
remember any of that. So for me, as like an adult doing my own thing, this is the first city I've ever lived in. So I feel very drawn to like the countryside just because it's quiet, it's peaceful, it's kind of what I grew up around, and it always just makes you appreciate nature and like simple life a little bit more. So ultimately for me, if I had a choice, I would always choose countryside.
Okay. And what made Molly pick up a camera?
Okay, so crazy thing, for most of my younger years until I would say 2020, which is only a good like 4 years ago, I actually shot most of my self-portraits and everything on my phone. So when I was like 14, 15, there was this photographer that I followed on Instagram. His name was Matt Fry, and I just really loved the way that he did photography because he did a lot of like film photos, but it was always very like soft and like I love the way you used natural light. Like it was always natural light. And then I just kind of thought to myself, like, hey, like I want to do this, but like I don't have anyone to take photos of. Like it would be so weird to ask someone to take photos of them at like the age of 14, you know, like, hey, like let me come take some photos of you on my phone. Like, so I decided to just attempt it myself. And I used to literally do like the craziest setups where I would like try and balance my phone in like certain ways to just like get the shot. And then so that continued for like most of my photography years when I was younger. And then in 2020, when I moved to Port Elizabeth, my partner at the time allowed me to use his camera to take my self-portraits. So that's the first time like when I realized like, hey, picking up a camera is actually not as easy as people make it seem when you like put it in manual, you know, then you're like, okay, this is way more complicated. Because he taught me from the beginning, like, don't shoot auto, get to know the thing, learn how it works if you like really want to know like how to do photography. So yeah, so that was the first time I really got an opportunity for it. And then in 2022, when I moved back home to my parents in the Western Cape, my mom actually gifted me her old camera body and lens, which was a nice Canon EOS 650D with a fixed 50mm lens. So that was the first camera I actually owned, was 2 years ago. And it was given to me by my lovely mother, who mainly does like landscape and wildlife photography.
All right.
And yeah, so I had that camera for quite a while until I would say last year, I think it was November or September sometime. I entered a competition at ORMS here in Cape Town, and I actually ended up winning a Canon EOS R50 mirrorless with an 18-45 crop sensor lens, with like a whole little like mic and a dead cat and like the whole little like setup, like a mini tripod. And that's honestly just changed the game for me since then. So I know that was quite like a trail off from the original question, but ultimately what made me pick up a camera, I would say, is just to like capture like the essence of a moment, like the beauty, or like to make something like timeless almost, you know, because photos, like, they never really die, you know, especially with like the footprint you can keep of them nowadays. And I've just always I've always been a very expressive person, and I've always viewed like just the human existence as art itself. So I just wanted to find my own unique way to capture that. And that's where the self-portrait started. So yeah, I guess you can owe it to my self-portraits ultimately.
Okay. We are going to look at one of your self-portraits, and, you know, would you say you're a queen of self-portraits, or, you know, you getting there?
I would say it's always a growing process. I mean, I do feel very proud for where I started, because I actually like to sometimes look back at like the old self-portraits I took on my phone that I edited on like this weird app on like, you know, like I didn't use Lightroom or anything back then. It was so like it was just not known to me.
Okay.
Sorry, so I wouldn't say I'm the queen of self-portraits. There are some. Hello. Okay, I'm not sure what's happening, but I'm going to continue my story. I wouldn't say I'm the queen of self-portraits necessarily, but I do believe I'm getting there. There are some accounts that I follow on Instagram that's big inspiration to me from people that also do take self-portraits. But yeah, very proud of where I am and what I've done and where I've come from, and the fact that I've basically taught myself how to do all of these things. So yeah, not the queen, but I would consider myself pretty good at what I do. Let's see if I can get him on WhatsApp. He's busy typing a message, so I'll get an answer soon. Okay, his power went off, but it's back on. So he says he's going to reconnect as soon as he can. Unfortunately, I can't read any questions or anything like that. So I guess you guys are just going to have to look at me until he reappears on screen again. Okay, guys, so while we wait for Pakamani, I'm just going to talk about my connection with Craig for a little bit. So Craig and I met back in, I think it was 2020, yes. So I contacted him on Instagram because I was following him when I was living in Port Elizabeth, and I absolutely loved the way that Craig just captured the essence of people. It was so beautiful to me. So I decided to pop him a message and ask him if he was willing to collaborate with me. So we decided to go for a coffee to talk about concepts, because he told me he's willing to collaborate if I bring him a really, really cool concept that he's never done before. So I sat down, I looked at some inspiration that I've had saved for the past couple of months or years, and I found this really cool concept that I approached him with. He was very happy to do it, and yeah, pretty much we started shooting together, and we just instantly connected on such a great creative level, and it just flowed so naturally. And in all honesty, like the first shoot we did together, I often go back and look at those photos because they're still some of my absolute favorites. Like I've got this whole folder because after that it kind of just like exploded, and we would just do so many shoots together. Like sometimes it wouldn't even be like planned, like it would either be me or Craig. We would just message each other, be like, hey, I'm bored today, like I've got some stuff in the studio, like do you want to come shoot? And we would just go and do stuff, and sometimes like the most amazing things would come out of it. So Craig truly helped me discover my essence in terms of the modeling side of what I do. Like he really helped me gain my confidence, find like the type of modeling I truly enjoy. And he always pushed for me to, you know, keep going, chase my dreams. And yeah, he just brought out the absolute best in me when it came to finding my confidence and finding what I want to do. So yeah, and he also taught me a lot about photography at the end of the day, because I also joined him a lot for some of his sessions where he was teaching some of his students and stuff like that. So I was always listening and paying attention, even if it didn't look like it. So ultimately, I owe so much to him. Someone else that I would also like to possibly touch base on in the creative space. Sure, there's actually so many, it's crazy. A lot of my inspiration, and I wouldn't really say mentorship because inspiration is completely different, but a lot of it does come from the content and the people I've been following in the space as well. Not so much, hey, welcome back.
Yeah, crazy little thing happened there. You know, lights just went off for a bit, and the next thing I was off, and I'm like, okay,
Welcome back.
Yeah, so also the comments in the chats are also still going on, and yeah, then right. There, call saying Pakamani has left the building, and I'm like, okay, he now needs to write a text so that people see that I'm back in the building. And I think these are the nice little lessons when we actually, do live shows, is that you encounter something like this. So now I'm actually on the other side as the guest, that you're on the other side as a host. And I love how you held it down. Like I was listening there, and like, yeah, your relationship with Craig and how everything started and the ideas that started to flow. That's something that is actually quite immaculate. Tell me, what beyond that, what was like your main inspiration when it came to saying, you know what, I'd love to be in front of the camera, and this is how I'm going to do it.
So when it started with more so, because obviously when it comes to the self-portraits, I'm kind of the model and the photographer already, but I wanted to branch out beyond that and not only take photos of myself anymore, because obviously that's like my comfort zone. So
Right.
I decided to start off with something that's a little bit less intimidating. So I actually started off with product photography first, because I find it much easier to take a photo of a product and make it look pretty than to necessarily interact with a person and have this like pressure about like connecting and all of these things. So I just started contacting a few places and a few companies and just asked them if they would want to collaborate. They can get the images, and I just want to grow my portfolio. And yeah, ever since then, it kind of just started branching out. Like, in all honesty, like I sometimes try to find the moment where it became like more of like freelance work instead of just like a passion project. Like I still sometimes try to like figure out where that turning point was. And I mean, I'm so grateful for it. But when it comes to like my photography, like ultimately at the end of the day, what I want to do is just make people feel something. Like I want it to almost be like nostalgic and like timeless, like when you look at something, it's like it never gets old, So that's kind of like what I want to do. Is just my main goal has always been to make people feel something. So I want to find my unique style to obviously bring that out, even if it's with the most simplest things like product photography. I don't want to necessarily limit myself to like a specific type of photography, because I don't know, I like to play around. I like doing many different things. So I don't want to necessarily say I just want to do this, when I like, kind of dipping my toes everywhere.
Tell me about collaborations. How easy or intimidating are they, would you say? Because, someone hears you and say, okay, you worked with people who, have like a really great passion that you share, and they maybe share the same thing, but they feel intimidated. So for that person who feels that they want to take a similar step, what advice would you give to that person?
So when it comes to reaching out initially, obviously it is quite a scary thing because you've never really done the work, or let's say like you haven't worked with someone else. Like obviously it's intimidating because you're like, oh, I might not be good enough, because imposter syndrome, we all know as a creator, is a very real thing. We all have imposter syndrome at some point in time. But I would say it's just finding kind of like brands and things that align, not only just like, I wouldn't say go for like the biggest brands, like go for your local brands, like people who are a little bit more welcoming and open to these kind of things. Like, I mean, I'm not going to go contact like Cotton On to do a collab with them. I'd rather find like a local fashion brand or something like that aligns with my morals, or who you've maybe even supported before, that you've bought stuff from that you really like. And then just, yeah, the approach is kind of just like, because it's going to benefit both at the end of the day, and that's what a collaboration is about. You know, if you're trying to build your portfolio, that's great for you because you can start putting together a body of work you can present to people you want to charge. And then the people in return, they also get the content that they can use for marketing. And with collaboration, normally people also give credit to the creator. So it also gains more traction on your account. And it's just like slowly building, like it's also building connections. Like it's actually also so important to just make a good first impression and just like honestly just be yourself and like be authentic with what you actually have in mind. You know, like you do have to have like a little bit of a like game plan. Like you can't just be like, hey, I'll take free photos for you, you know. Like you have to kind of like think, look at their Instagram. Like, do they have good photos? Does it look like they shoot everything on?
So tell me something. If you had the opportunity to do, let's say, something like a TED Talk or workshop, you know, what would your focus area be when it comes to photography?
Sure. Okay. When it comes to photography, so I wouldn't really go obviously like into the technical side of things because like I said, my main goal has always been to make people feel something. And when it comes to photography, for me, it's so much more than just like, I'm not too like, obviously like in certain moments for certain work, it matters what gear you have. You know, obviously you can't go shoot like a movie for Netflix on like the camera that I currently own. But for me, it's just about making do with what's available to you and being very intentional with what you do. And why I bring up intentional is because I actually recently purchased a film camera for myself, which is obviously like throwing it way back and like basically almost insulting my digital camera that sits in the same laptop bag, but also not really. And what I've realized in that whole process is obviously with most roles, you get like 36 exposures. So you're quite limited with what you can do. And those 36 exposures, they cost you money every single time to buy and to develop. So it's just made me more intentional with my photography and my compositions and everything like that. So yeah, for me, when it comes to it, it's never lose your why. It's like that with most things in life. Like never lose the why for why you started. You know, like, yes, it might start making you money. It might start doing this. It might become your whole lifestyle. But don't lose the passion. Don't lose the love that made you want to make it into a lifestyle in the first place, you know? So yeah, as much as it's about like client work and monetizing and making a lifestyle for yourself and a living, it's also about still finding joy and having your passion projects on the side where you don't necessarily make money, but it's something you do because it's what your creative mind wants to do. So I think having that balance, if you want to make a living out of it, is probably the most important aspect.
All right. Nice one. Let's get into some of the work that you've actually done. So I'm going to pull up a picture that you took and you take us through the inspiration and what was happening at the time and generally what the feeling was. Let's pull this up.
So I thought you might pull this one up. This is actually not a self-portrait. I think I did tell you this was actually shot by Bella.
Okay.
A friend of mine from overseas. So they come down like once a year from like Houston, and then they were actually shooting a posing class for Bella's like a course that she was going to sell online, and she invited me to be one of the models for one of the sections for emotive posing. So she invited me into the studio. I had my makeup done by a lovely makeup artist. I unfortunately cannot remember her name right now, but she's also from overseas. And yeah, so I was placed on a little chair. We were doing our thing, and Bella was running through the course stuff, and I ended up getting the final edits of the photos that's also being used in the course. And in all honesty, you picked my favorite one. I absolutely adore this photo of myself. It's beautiful. I mean, I kind of wish it was a self-portrait, but I'm not going to claim it as one because that would be wrong. But yeah, that was one of the for this one.
Well, the way that it was so captured, you were not, the way I see it, the way that you also interacting with the camera, it's giving those vibes that, you know what, I'm here. I exist. I'm in a world where I feel a great sense of comfort. So it is something that, not many people often get, but definitely one of the photos that I would definitely say, you know what, this is Molly, so that is something.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm just trying to get more of your photos in, and, technology can be technology. Like technology, work with me. Okay, there we go.
I can send you some more on WhatsApp if that's going to help.
No. At times it just jams a bit when you are trying to just put it up. So yeah, finally got it, and let's add it onto the stream. And I can see you were having a bit of fun with this one when this was being taken.
So this photo was taken by Joshua Holtzinger. This was, I think, earlier this year sometime. I think maybe like February this year. We went for a sunset mission with a whole little crew, and we always end up taking photos together every single time. And it's always, honestly, some of the best work I've ever done. So the story behind the dress, which is actually quite a thing, I literally picked up the dress, I think either this day or a few days prior to this photo being taken. So I'm not really one to like buy myself like designer things or anything like that, but I saw this dress from this local brand in Tigret. I wanted this dress so desperately. So as soon as I got it, I told him we need to go shoot it together. I don't trust anyone else to do it but him. And then, yeah, we went to Signal Hill. We had one of the most beautiful sunsets, and clearly you can see the lighting was just absolutely immaculate that day. And yeah, he just kind of put me on a rock. He composed the photo and he told me just to do my thing. And that's kind of that. And I mean, the wind was a paid actor that day because it did bits. It did bits. I mean, look at that flow. It's so great.
I love it. And one of the things I love mostly about it is the fact that, you get to play in the sun, and it's quite evident how great it turned out, because also you being in it just sells quite a lot. So I'm gonna try and move to the next one, where it's another emotive one. I think you love this moment and zone. So there's a question that some people tend to ask, and the answer I've always been told for this particular question is no, just keep quiet. It's not your place to say it. When you notice badly done makeup, ever speak out? So that's the question. When you see badly done makeup, do you speak out?
I'm taking a while to respond because I'm trying to word my words in my head before I just blurt them out onto a live screen for everyone to hear. Okay, so I mean, when it comes to photography, 100%. But there's obviously a way to do it. You know, you don't want to be rude or insult the person. I mean, if you're just walking about in the street and it's a random person, I'm not going to say anything. But if you're in front of my camera and I'm capturing you and there is something that's not working, I will speak up and address it, because ultimately at the end of the day, if I don't tell you and now you get your photos back and you're like, oh, why didn't you tell me my makeup looked bad? Then I'm in the wrong, you know? So at the end of the day, it's only going to benefit both people, because now you don't have to go sit afterwards in Photoshop and fix it in post, which is not what you want to do, because you don't want to alter too much. For me personally, I don't like altering people's faces or skin too much when it comes to that, unless they specifically request it. But yeah, I think definitely speak up about it. Yeah.
Okay. So we're also going to look at one of the pictures as you talk about it, and you say, you know, at times emotion is what we capture, and that's what people also see when we capture that. So I'm going to bring up another photo onto the stream that you really adore. Wait.
Yes. This is also by Bella.
Right. All right. Take us through this one.
So this was also from the posing class. So this one was more, the instruction was more like, obviously the other photo was a little bit more, you know, like my arms were folded across my body. I looked a bit more like retracted into myself. I had a frown on my face. Obviously this one is quite the opposite, where my face is very soft. And that's also the thing about posing. It's also good, like, yes, it's good to know how to pose and everything, but it's also lovely to have a photographer who can give you good instructions and tell you what expression they are looking to get out of you for the photo. So I've worked with Bella a few times before, so I'm very comfortable in front of her camera, and I know that she captures the essence of people very beautifully. So this instruction for me was to be very, soft, gentle. I feel safe, I feel comfortable, and just like, you know, not very closed off to the world or anything like that. And for me, it always comes to the most important thing is to really try and have emotion in your eyes, because anything you feel will always come through your eyes, whether you're anxious, angry, sad, happy. Like you can kind of tell when you look in someone's eyes what they're feeling. So for me, I really try to, when they give me an instruction and say, okay, this is the emotion, what I want, I really try to embody it instead of just like acting it out. You know, I try to actually make it authentic and real.
Right. No, the thing is, I like the fact that you're talking about posing classes. And, you know, when we talk about posing, you know, it's one of the things that I've picked up that with the people that I've worked with, they would tell me, okay, listen, of poses. So what now? And I normally sit there and I say, well, there are three things that three shots that I want. I want a wide angle one, a semi-close one, and a close-up one. So that's the only posing. And then the other thing that I've learned as well is a method I'm going to ask if you've ever tried out. And that is to shoot in black and white and then produce it in color later.
So I've seen a lot of people do that, but I personally have not done that before.
Okay. And yeah, the person I learned that from is Craig, actually. There's a lot I learned from Craig.
I thought so.
Literally, I could write a book about just simple tips and tricks that Craig has. It's like really, you know, that sort of thing. Like just thinking Craig, you just get goosebumps. I won't lie.
Oh, that's so true.
So do you take, you know, I like something that you mentioned with the previous photos where you spoke about the posing classes, you know, so that's something that's really important in the industry. So what would you say, you know, is the greatest benefit out of having something like that? Because a lot of people always have a class where say, I'm doing a master class on how to shoot photos. And then this one person says, I'm doing a master class on how to pose.
So I think it would be an amazing thing in the industry. Obviously, the course that Bella sells is like mainly overseas and it's online and all of these things, but posing is actually one of the hardest things to learn if you don't have confidence in yourself. I mean, for me personally, when it came to my self-portraits, obviously back in the day when I shot on my phone, I just saw it on the screen, so I could kind of see what I was doing. There was like a little self-timer you could push and all of these things. But posing actually takes a lot of practice because not all poses work for all bodies and not all people feel comfortable or confident doing the same pose. So when it comes to posing classes, I actually think it could be very beneficial, especially in a place like Cape Town, because yeah, like I said, it takes a lot of time and practice, and a lot of the time why people don't feel comfortable in front of a camera is because they simply don't know what they actually look like. For me, what I ended up doing is because I couldn't really find proper posing classes besides if it's for like runways or like fashion or this or that, which isn't really something I wanted to do. I practiced in front of the mirror. I honestly just stood in front of the mirror, and I also went on Instagram and I looked at some of the models that I used to follow, and I was like, this is a cool pose. Let me see if I can reenact it. And then, yeah, just practice makes perfect. But it's good to have someone that can kind of guide you and lead you to do these things instead of having to figure it out yourself, you know?
All right. Tell me something. There's something you touched on. We say when you spoke about all shapes and sizes in terms of posing. Have you ever been involved in a sort of body positivity campaign by any chance?
Not as of yet, but it is something I would like to get into. There was a local brand that I kind of touched base with a while ago, but they are having other issues in the business, so we kind of put it on the back burner. But it was kind of leading in that direction because it was a lingerie brand and everything. So hopefully that will resurface within the next few months again.
All right. And this one is almost like a leading question next week's show as well, because next week we're going to be discussing boudoir art, which is going to be interesting. It's interesting in the sense that always had sort of a stigma that is somewhat taboo, and it's one of the things that very few people feel feel comfortable doing. And at times, you get a really select few also people willing to shoot that kind of art form. So what would you say if you've been part of that? Yes, you were with the time that you did the workshop with Craig. What would you say are some of the challenges that people at the workshop cited? And what were maybe some of the possible solutions for some of the challenges that people did face?
So we didn't actually go through with the workshop earlier this year in Cape Town. We didn't have enough people register, unfortunately. Very disappointed in all of you. Very disappointed in all of you. But I have shot boudoir before, and I have done it with Craig. I mean, just in general, if you want to talk about the challenges around it and doing it, as a model, I mean, there is a lot of risk that almost comes with it because it is almost still seen as taboo by a lot of people. And I mean, I'm not really someone to judge people's opinions. I mean, if we were all the same, that would be extremely boring. But at the same time, I mean, for me, it's just there's a difference between anything, I mean, you can take a very sexually inclined photo of just someone's face. You don't even need their body in it. It's all about the posing and what message you're trying to convey. And I feel like there's a very thin line. Well, there's not really a very thin line between it. People have their own lines between what boudoir and basically, well, sorry for the word, but pornography is. And a lot of people mistake it for that and kind of see it as taboo, and it's not really acceptable and almost something that you should be embarrassed of. But in all honesty, like I said, it's more about the message that you're trying to convey in the photos. And you can see from the lighting and how the person's posing and all of these things, whether it's like that or this, like there's a major difference. And I think it's just, at the end of the day, like I said, I really enjoy judging people's opinions because we're all allowed to have that for ourselves. But what I don't like is if you don't understand it, don't judge it. Like, cool, you can disagree with it, but you don't have to like attack people for it, because each to their own. Like, you're allowed to have your opinion. I'm allowed to have mine. I mean, I green light it. I think it's cool. I don't judge people for it at all. I've personally done it myself. But yeah, if you don't like it, just look the other way, basically.
Right. I think on that note, one thing that I'd add there is, as a person, if you're not sure, it's always really great to sit down with whoever you're going to be working with and say, these 100%. Are, these might be my challenges, and how are you looking at doing this? And then, first having that meeting and then agreeing, and then going on to execute, because I think a lot of people take it from the standpoint that, on the generic of everything, if we took everything at face value and didn't actually do investigations, I don't think we'd actually be where we are. But funny enough, time just moves. And I'm actually looking at the time, but I'm actually really enjoying this interview. So one of the things that I do want to ask is just, you being able to switch over and do photography and do modeling at the same time, and now loving the fact that you've also done self-portraits. The one thing that I do want to ask, though, is that, this is something that personally I've struggled with when it comes to self-portraits. How do you have any difficult challenges when setting up light, in terms of how everything just needs to work out with the light? Or are you more of, okay, I'll do self-portraits, more outdoor, and not so much work with sort of a light source or sort?
Yeah, so most of my self-portraits so far have been with natural light. I absolutely adore working with natural light, especially when it comes to my self-portraits, because I said it's more focused on like quite emotive and emotional, and I wanted to almost feel as natural as possible so that it's, like I said, almost like nostalgic. So I did recently do some work for a lingerie brand where I had to take self-portraits wearing a few different sets, and I did it in studio, and I actually did need a light for that. So I borrowed some lights. This is before I had my setup from Godox that I currently have at the moment, which is obviously what I'll be using going forward. So I borrowed a setup from a friend, and I mean, it is quite a challenge because firstly, you want to get your composition. So you first need to set up that whole situation, and then you need to bring the lights into the story to either like bounce or full. And then if you decide like, because most of the time when I do it, I leave my camera in one place and like I'll move around. So then if you decide you want to now move around, everything needs to move with you. So it is a bit of a mission, but once you get that sweet spot and it just hits like perfectly, then it just flows. A lot of the time, like I'll do a set of self-portraits at a time, so I won't necessarily have to change the light setup that many times. So it might take me like 20-30 minutes sometimes to get it to where exactly I want it to be, but then after the frustration, the flow happens and then you kind of forget about it, so it's fine.
No, it's lovely. As I said, the greatest thief that is out there that hasn't been caught is a little thing called time. And it's not even by procrastination. It's just literally, as the saying goes, time flies when you're having fun, and I'm having fun learning from you and understanding just a bit. Because the thing is, this also, the one thing that I think also drew me to actually have this interview with you is also understanding just how few female creatives actually have the spotlight, shone upon them. It's not that they aren't out there, but definitely, someone needs to cast that spotlight. So in you taking up photography, was that one of your, let's say, missions to say, listen, I want to become a recognized photographer? Or was it a situation of saying, I just enjoy photography and that's it for me?
No, definitely I want to become a recognized photographer. And to be honest, like the more I've been getting involved in the industry, and I don't mean this in any kind of weird way, it's just most people in the industry are men, and that is true. I do know
Mhm.
of females in the industry 100%, but I definitely know more female models than I know female photographers. And that's just personal to me from like
Right.
the crowds I've connected with. I would
Mm.
definitely say it's more like male.
Dominated, yes.
Yeah, obviously they're all very welcoming to me in the space. I haven't felt any like animosity or anything like that. Like no one's been like, you can't be here. So I would admit that that's also very lovely to feel welcomed into the space. But yeah,
Definitely.
obviously it comes with its challenges, 100%. A
Mm.
lot of the time, I also just feel as an upcoming photographer, people sometimes don't take you as seriously, you know?
Definitely. No, I think
So
it.
that's also a big challenge is trying to also associate yourself with people who are associated with people, you know. Unfortunately, it is also a thing of like who you know and not always what you know. Like what you know is extremely important when it comes to what you do, but it is also
Mm.
good, like I said, to socialize and make connections and go out into
Yeah.
communities, like and
Mm.
just connect with people and learn as much as you can because ultimately, especially in the freelance like community, like most of your work might come from like a friend or someone you know who runs his own production company or it's this or it's that. So yeah, it's good to just put yourself out there and just believe in yourself, basically. I mean, it
Okay.
might not happen on the time you want it to happen, but your time will come. You know, you just need to keep going.
Right. And I think this is going to be my last question for you for the evening. Actually, second last question.
That's
And
all
that
good.
is, and that is, do you have anything lined up for Women's Month in terms of concepts or, photographs or, you know, many events that you're looking at hosting?
So I haven't actually sat down to think about that yet, but I definitely do want to definitely do something with my self portraits for that. I was currently very busy the past few days or week now planning something for one of the communities that I'm a part of in Cape Town because we're hosting our next event next weekend. So I've been pretty piled up with that and editing photos for clients and all of that. But I definitely do want to do something, whether it will just be a self portrait project or whether it will be something collective. I haven't decided yet. I mean, it might be both. You never know. But it's definitely something I do want to focus on and also shine the lights on, especially, yeah, in this industry, you know?
Right. And then last, I hate time, but it's one of those things. Do tell us if people want to get hold of you, how can they do that?
Okay, so my main email address, whether it's for photography, videography, which I'm still getting into, so don't always call me for that, or my modeling, anything like that. It's literally so when I say it's mollyblue@gmail.com, you have to literally add the it's like the ITS needs to be there. It's mollyblue@gmail.com. And my Instagram for my modeling is it's Molly Blue, and photography is shot by Molly Blue.
Okay. Nice. Short and sweet. Shot by Molly Blue. It's Molly
Website
Blue.
is in the works. It is coming. So that will be announced soon as well on the social. So if you keep an eye on that, you'll see my website in the next few weeks.
Definitely, that's something that we definitely look forward to seeing. And as I said, what time is maybe against us, but definitely looking forward to seeing you again on F-Stop because there's a lot of great insight that you've just shared with us, and it's something that we can't take for granted in terms of these small little tips and getting to know you. And also the fact that, with some people, when you actually knock on their door, they say, well, how much is it going to be? And you're like, well, guys, I'm very happy to speak with you. And so that,
Yeah.
because, yeah, there's a great deal of expectation. And thank you very much for availing yourself. And yeah, have a good
Thank you so much
evening.
for having
And
me. It was so
well,
lovely.
it's always a pleasure. All
Yeah,
right.
I look forward to the next one.
Definitely. It might be sooner than you think. Just keep
That's
that email
perfectly
open.
fine by me.
All right, guys, that was Molly Blue. Thank you very much to Molly for coming. There is something that I quickly also just want to mention, and that is happening next weekend, and that is none other than the Content Weekend. And the Content Weekend will be held at Kloppers in Pretoria, and you can get Godox Ambassador Carl Daniels and Godox Creative Ashvir Maharaj, and they're going to be there at Kloppers between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. So please do come in, do support, because you know what, at the end of the day, these are the gents that make things happen. These are the guys that just teach us, inspire us, and just do all of the creative and wonderful things. So this is really a wonderful opportunity that we can actually experience seeing Esfria and Carl there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know, the one thing that I hate the most is time, because time is a thief that never gets caught. But again, check us next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. right here on F-Stop Live. Prior to that, on Tuesday, we do have Getting to Grips with Carl Daniels, and we'll see what amazing stuff that Carl is going to be up to. So from Wine Bottles from Tuesday, let's see what happens next week. And definitely we're going to have a very nice and wonderful session next week. So do stay tuned. We're going to be having ourselves a really wonderful guest, which will be announced in the week. And do stay tuned in. From me, my side, it's cheerio and good night.